Swami Śivananda turned 128 years old last week. Here he was in COVID times, bowing to Prime Minister Modi and then to the President with 8-point contact to the ground. There is a further reverent position with a flat body, but that was reserved for his Guru of Navadvipa, who passed away in 1959. In Indian tradition, Śivananda will soon be 129 when regarding his gestation period. He was born in a part of Bharat that became Bangladesh. Bharat has claimed for many decades the oldest men, but the Guinness Book of Records always said, "O fair maid, I cannot include you, for you have no passport to put on." His temple record of birth allows his passport, national identity card, and he says bring a doctor for proof. So Guinness are now told to say, "Fair maid, perhaps your records are mistaken." In comparison to the oldest Westerner who lived by their records is Jeanne Calment, who supposedly died aged 122. I have doubts, but first look at the blessed comparative similarities, which you can pause to read if you want. The biggest doubt is her refusing a blood test checking for autozygous DNA, which would determine if she was in fact her daughter Yvonne getting out of inheritance tax. She had blood testing for her health, so perhaps she was afraid about her marriage to her cousin, who tried grooming her from the age of 15. Those days was surely legal, so I'll say wooed her. Swami, on the other hand, is happy for doctor tests. He says bring them on. She was from a wealthy background with servants and never worked, whereas he was always from a poor background, only helping the poor. Let's see the coincidences that would favor her switch theory. Again, you can pause to read if you want. If we assume Jean's age is correct, her cigarette habit of 3 per day for 101 of her years shaves 125 seconds per day of her life. That's 4.6 million seconds in total, or in days is just 53.5 days. Consider that she lost 40 years sleeping. Swami Śivananda gained so much life experience by controlling his sleep, which saves around 2 hours per day of the average 8. So comparing her life, he gained 25% of 40 years, gaining 10 years more experience plus gaining 1.5 extra spiritual hours per day by waking at the Brahma Muhurta, which is before sunrise. Combining this with his sleep control means he has 18.66 years of more active life than others without this practice. So spiritually he is like a 147-year-old, and lately was still studying the 700-verse Srimad Bhagavad Gita. What about his diet? He does the opposite of Jeanne, so he never smoked, never drank. He is surprisingly vegan by never consuming meat or even milk. He is chaste, never eats alliums or oil. Kind of whole food, plant-based, but not necessarily whole grain, as his boiled rice is complemented with vegetables only, not even fruits or nuts. If you try at home, beware of your B12 levels, where the West have killed it in a trade-off with chlorinating cholera away. Right now in the video he is explaining how being poor is a beneficial detachment. Along with his yoga, he remains like Jeanne in good health, mentally and physically. Spiritual scripture called Shastra has various longevities of different animals, man and supermen, from direct quotes every Hindu can find on the Manusmriti, 1,600 years life for man in a particular better age of living. 1,000 years is mentioned, that is 120, or now the average 100, minus whatever ails our environment like poisons and pollution. The greatest longevity being a glimpse of infinity or cyclicity, Mahavishnu less than a second being a life of Brahma, which is the latter alone in human terms is 311.04 trillion years with a T, and one can read 4 different Brahmas being born after one another in the notes of disciplic succession of Vaishnavas, that's Vishnu worshippers, who write commentaries to help explain the Srimad Bhagavatam, for example, within the latter's main text. King Priyavrata from the lineage of Swayambhuva Manu reigned 1.1 billion years with a B, and is not uncommon for rulers to have 307 million years reigns each, or kings having a son when 60,000 years old. However, in this time of Kali Yuga, the reigns hover around 100 years, quickly declining on average and in the future, as in 427,000 years' time, we will be considered old at the age of 25.